All right. What I had us for today. It should be for today. Yeah. Hey, good morning, guys. Coffee Talk here, and I have my friend Chris Martin from Arizona and George Martorano from Philadelphia. Good morning, guys. How are you doing this Friday? What day is today? Wednesday? I don't even know what day it is.
Wednesday.
This Wednesday morning. How's things going?
Well, my city, we've been this historical pandemic, and we've been dealing with it. It's not nice, but all through this year. Hold on, excuse me. Hold on a minute. Hey, excuse me.
Regulate. Got to regulate.
Yeah, okay. I just sorry about that. Anyway, as you know, I'm in the CBD industry, and middle of all this last week, the city of Philadelphia, after numerous places have CBD interactions, all positive, they decided to come in and shut me down out of the blue, and it was totally no paperwork, no recommending what I have to do and not do. They just walked in there, gangbusters, and shut me down. Imagine that.
Who was it? The city, the cops?
The city, the Board of Health. Yeah, they're saying going back to the old fickleness. The FDA in this state of Pennsylvania, the FDA say you can't consume any drinks or any edibles. But I try to obey all the rules because all the companies I'm buying from are in state from Pennsylvania. So anyway, I got it open patiently, and a lot of help from lawyers and stuff like that. We got open, but guess what? Even though I did nothing wrong, I had to pay a fine.
I'd fight that.
$315 to pay a fine, but that's not what I'm upset about. Is that I had to tell my employees, you're out of work until I get this open. So it's the same old rhetoric. The small business man gets hurt. And I was the only one in the city that ever did it to.
We filed right away for the small business loan. We're also in CBD. We started hempfulfarms back in 2012. And we filed for the SBA right away. And within 3 days, we're denied, saying that we didn't qualify because we were registered as a hemp company.
No,
so we just...
Yeah,
there's some new paperwork that came out that's approving some hemp companies now, Chris. I don't know if you saw that.
I saw that. We're definitely getting in line trying to see if we can do anything about it, but you know how it goes. Short end of the stick, but it's not going to stop us. We'll keep going and fighting. But yeah, we had something like that, George, happen here with the post office. They started seizing all of our packages.
Wow.
Most of our business was started online.
Right.
Well before CBD was anything.
Right.
People thought it was snake oil back then. But we did most of our business online. The post office came through and started stealing packages and literally taking them, destroying them, not replacing them. And we fought. We actually went into court and filed paperwork against the post office, and they had made a statement. I don't know if it was due to our case or anything, but I know that they came out and made a national statement that stated they couldn't touch product as long as you put paperwork in there. So you know how it is, man. After 30 years inside, you just got to keep fighting, and we'll get you back out here too.
Yeah, it still hasn't stopped. But I believe, it's my opinion, that due to the fact that our country is financially strapped, these governors and mayors will now, I believe, will open up the cannabis industry where it should be, because they're going to need money. There's no way they can make a Band-Aid big enough to fix this debt for these states. So I think we're going to be okay now. It's my opinion that the cannabis industry is going to really, really move along quickly in the right direction.
So, before we get into too much more, I want to talk to the viewers that are maybe tuning in for the first time. This is Coffee Talk. George Martorano is one of the longest. He served the longest prison sentence for nonviolent cannabis. Chris Martin also served time for cannabis as well. I believe Chris was going behind bars just as George was getting out back in 2015. Both of these individuals were model inmates, and since they've been released, They've been helping either individuals and organizations through Zonka Miles. I know George has Cannabis for Guns, helping to, with re-entry. But not only that, but setting a really good example of how, somebody could be locked up and all of their freedoms taken away, but still persevere, come out and build a business in the new industry. Both Chris and George have businesses that are in the hemp space. Chris being in Arizona and George being in Philadelphia, and most recently my wife now here in Florida. So all three of us are in the hemp industry, so to speak, after all these years of cannabis. So, tell us a little bit, guys, about the transition, of going from, what you were locked up for to now actually operating a business that pays taxes and is, a good influence on, not only the community, but other individuals. Let's start with you, Chris.
I was, like you said, I was going into prison in 2015 when you were getting out, George. That was my second stay. The first time I went in, I was 20 years old, got caught with a joint. I've always been a pothead. My parents grew weed in my attic. Like, it was all, weed was just a thing, if you got sick, you took mommy's elixir, or if you got a burn, you put mommy's lotion on you. And I never cared what it was. We just assumed it was good for you. I came to Arizona thinking way more liberal way of thinking, or way more open to what my way of life is. And 3 months later, I'm in prison for a joint that they found in my dorm room in college. So 3 years later, I get out. I still do what I do, but I'm afraid of the cops. I end up, joining the motorcycle club, which just allowed these guys to exacerbate all my felony charges. So mine got blown out of proportion pretty big, and we just kind of rode that train and made a movie out of it just to keep the cops accountable. Hemp came to me because one of my cannabis farmers that I'd been working with out of Colorado for years saw my raid. He saw what happened. He saw my family suffering and us losing everything. And he came up and said, "Look, man, all 50 products that you've done for 12 years out of cannabis, you could do right here out of hemp." And literally left me a case of quart bottles of oil to play with. I literally that day changed recipes from adding THC to products to hemp CD products. And if you remember, our first brand was actually called Weedless. We launched a brand called Weedless 8 years ago trying to do hemp. And I mean, we were almost booed out of the community because everyone thought it was fake, snake oil salesman, all this other drama, but once you see the end result, people start building it up and helping you push it. Next thing you know, we've got 4 stores that we've opened up. We've franchised across the country, but we're trying to stay small mom and pop. We've pushed some big corporates out just because, that's not our background. That's not what we do. Not that the idea isn't there, that it doesn't work. It's just not us. I got too many kids to try to employ a bunch of corporate guys coming in here running my show. So I'm going to let all my kids run this business. Other than that, man, it's always about helping. My nonprofit, Zonka Miles, talks about it. We've always been about helping the community. I think that's the only reason my company has survived 2 stints in prison, a documentary, 2 books, all kinds of felonies. I mean, it's because we come from a good place. It's about helping people before it's about making us sick.
Right. Absolutely.
So they made the documentary, Haters Make Me Famous. And then, George, they're making a documentary about your life right now, I believe, correct?
Yeah. We have some more. We have some green screen shooting to finish, and we're waiting. We're waiting to get the permission. There's a prison that's closed here, an old and famous prison, Holmesburg. We're going to try to shoot there, and then we should have all the A and B footage that we need, and then when it gets, then we're the whole thing is editing, that. So, but it's it's a lot of work, you got to commit to it, you have to be patient. It's a lot of work. But getting back to the question about how do I get involved with the CBD and come back out of prison and get involved in the hemp industry again, because when I was in prison, the life no parole, and when Colorado was the first state to come on board there medically legally, I got a visit from my brother-in-law John, who Tom knows well, great man, and He said, they're going to be selling marijuana legally in Colorado. And I said, what did you say? And sometime we go by and he would visit. He would visit regularly. And he says, hey, they're going to make marijuana legal in Washington State. And it seems that every time I was getting a visit, another state. And I would go back to my cell and I said, this is insane. I said, my sentence means I go home with a body bag. And now they're selling marijuana all over. So, and it's still not the same. We still have people languishing in prison for cannabis. And, I'm hoping that all this tragedy that we're experiencing right now, I believe some quick decisions should be made, I think, on the cannabis. And then we can put all this behind. And basically, all we want to do is help others. It creates jobs. And I believe in our industry, our community, which is a great community across America and around the world, there's no falsehoods. I mean, if you want to get in this, like the best sentence Chris said, where it's about helping others, you want to get in this industry and you want to lie and cheat and give bad quality product, you will be found out quickly. So, I'm just proud of being part of a lot of good people, like Chris and Tom.
Hey, George, did you ever think all those years in prison that later on you'd come out and be a movie star?
No. But I want to reference to Tom. I want to tell the audience, ladies and gentlemen, Tom is a great human being. He came to my aid when I was in the cell. He actually sought me out. And that was prior to 2015. And we were very good friends today. So, but I think Tom came to me because the word was getting out that I was not a bad person that's supposed to die in there. So, you have to meet I believe in life, every situation, whether it's court situations, family situations, whatever business, you got to meet them halfway. So I met the situation halfway by making my metamorphosis known to the world.
Yeah, you're doing it with dignity and honor, and you're not in one of the safest towns in South Philly, and you're helping to change that in your hometown of South Philly. You went back. You were here with me here in Florida for a while, but you did go back up there, and you're making change right there in the city that you hail from.
Yeah, it's my Cannabis for Guns program, ladies and gentlemen. Cannabisforguns.com. It's the most innovative program in America right now, where you can go on the website. The bio will explain how it's done. It's totally legal. You're working hand in hand with the city and municipality and the police. So it's about just taking the weapons and trading the cannabis for it. I had the way it's set up. Of course, there's nobody anything, but I believe it makes sense because our city's getting worse. As the economy is getting worse, the violence yesterday, a 4-year-old was killed. I mean, so many children are getting caught in crossfires, and the cities like Chicago. I mean, we have Baltimore. I mean, I think even though I spoke to the city hall twice about it, standing ovation about it. Everyone shakes my hand, but nobody calls. Nobody want to take that bold step. When it makes sense, it's hard to get them to get with the cannabis. The more sense you make with the cannabis industry, I believe you're always going to get opposition.
That's true. So, and both of your locations have I've been to both places in Arizona and in Philadelphia, and it really is changing the landscape of what people, believe, a hemp or a cannabis business is. You could go in, you could, have a cup of coffee, you could have, some food. Chris, you have ice cream at your place. George, you have a garden where, people could go outside and they're stopping smoking cigarettes. So you're really becoming places where you're bringing the community together, and not only, people are learning from you from the stories that they've heard, but they actually get to meet you and see what, good people that you really are. And, I think it's an inspiration to every small business owner out there right now, because we're hearing it. We're locked up in our homes, and people are getting stir crazy. You guys were locked up in 8x8, 10x8 cells for years. I think both of you were in solitary. And now people are being forced to stay home because of coronavirus, and there is a lot of fear out there.
Yeah, I've been getting a lot of that. People say, "How did you do it for 32 years? I can't take it anymore."
It's because you can open the fridge and the window and the door here. Home's a little easier. I tell everybody this isn't lockdown. You have no idea what lockdown is.
And both of you wrote books while you were behind bars. I don't know if you know this, George, but Chris has Convict Creations, which is a recipe book from behind bars.
Oh, I gotta order that. It's about jailhouse cooking.
Yeah, what we did is inside. You see how creative everybody is in there, and I started off collecting hobby craft and artwork and just poetry, everything that everyone collects in there. We put it on a website and started selling it for people, so that way they could, take care of their families, buy commissary, whatever. Just, and it was nonprofit. We didn't take a penny from it. We just felt good doing it. Well, when I came home, the guy who helped us produce our documentary and book, he saw what we were doing with my collection of recipes, and he said, "Why don't we do a cooking show?" So we produced this book. We put it on a spiral, so that way we can keep adding recipes from Philadelphia, from across the country, and all the prisons where everyone's done time at. But then we bring inmates, ex-cons, onto the show, and we produce the product. We come out and make hooch, and I'll blow up an eraser and make trash bag thread and sew some picture frames. And I mean, literally, we're really making fun of it. We're just trying to smooth over a really shitty situation. But honestly, I didn't realize how many people Googled those topics. People really looked for prison food or how to survive prison. So the book turned into more of a survival guide, I put stories that people have survived in there, and really we just kind of try to make it fun more than anything. So I'd love to send you one. You can have it, and I'd love to get some recipes from you. We'll put you on the show.
Yeah. It's I believe there's a story in all of us connected with the cannabis industry, some worse than others, but there is stories. And, finally, I made myself known to the world by hard copy stories. So right now, I've been getting, as far as prison is concerned, I've been hearing some terrible things about, they're all locked down right now.
Right.
And, when you're locked in, ladies and gentlemen, whoever's listening, that's the most helpless feeling, especially during a pandemic. I was at a jail in the 90s in the South, and where we had a flu epidemic in I don't know if it was an epidemic or anyway, swept through the whole prison. Got so bad when the guards start calling in sick, and then.
Oh no!
Oh, I lost George for a second. He may.
Oh no! I know what he's saying when it comes to. There he is.
Damn it!
I hear you.
I have to get him back, Ab. That phone.
There you are.
You're back.
Yeah, I'm sorry. When the phone rang, it just shut off.
No worries.
Oh, no.
That happens.
All right. Well, where was I saying? What was I saying now?
When they got you in the prison. The flu.
Okay. Well, anyway, the guards didn't show up for a day and a half. And finally, the door opened up in the cell block, and 3 soldiers came in. They were, I don't know what they were, National Guard or what. And they started feeding us. And then after a couple of days, I got to talking to one. I think he was a corporal. And I said, we can run showers. I'll show you how to run showers. You can run 5 at a time. So I've been through it in a small scale where, you just left there, your last man standing. So, but I've been hearing some terrible stories around the country with prison situations right now. Terrible stories. So we got to, I run every morning. I'm a runner, and always say a prayer for those locked in that can't help themselves. It's a terrible feeling.
Well, George, just so you know, we've got a nonprofit called zonkamiles.org. That was the first thing I did when I came home in 2017. After seeing, I like to tell people I had the luxury of going to prison in 2 different decades. I went to prison my first time in the 90s. I got out, was out 20 years, no trouble, and then went back. And the change in prison between those 20 years was crazy. When I went in the first time, it was, 2-man cell, rehabilitation. You had classes, you had jobs, you had, things to make you be a better man. This last time when I went in, we're in a huge warehouse. There's 500 men, 6 toilets, no classes, no rehab, no GED, no anything. And the heroin and the drugs and everything were so much worse now than it ever was before. Way cheaper, way more prevalent to get in there like I'd never seen before. And I just felt like something needed to be done. So we started zonkamiles.org. And I've been talking with people on our podcast about the nonprofit, and people from prison are calling in, telling us about those conditions, telling us about food shortages because they can't get produce anymore. The food companies just can't even get it to them, and the farms can't get it to them, or the private contracts between the food service companies are failing. I mean, I agree with you. There's a million things that need to be done, and I think just starting our nonprofit is a needle in a haystack towards trying to fix those things.
I want to give you some food for thought, Chris. There's 3 states right now. I know Kentucky for sure, Minnesota for sure. I believe Mississippi. I think it's Mississippi, yeah. That actually are selling CBD and the commissary, prison commissary. And a report that I read, it's been cutting down on violence, and it helps the psychology department not issue, the psychotropic drugs too quickly on these guys, which as you know, ruins them for life. A lot of cases. So I'm trying to introduce it to Pennsylvania corrections, and policy is that we will provide a facility when they come home. To have a place to live and indoctrinate them into, a job. So it'll be a transition facility. We would use some of our profits for that. So it's just giving you food for thought for your state, because awesome. I think cannabis should be sold, and CBD should be sold in the prison commissary.
It's funny you bring that up. Part of our case was medical. I'm a Crohn's patient. We fought for 3.5 years in trial because we felt that a mandatory minimum sentence of 2.5 years for a repeat offender of pot is idiotic, especially for somebody that we had to spend 6 months deeming that medical care had to happen in prison. And it was actually stipulated in my sentencing documents. But when I get to prison, obviously there's no Medicare, there's no medical. You go to infirmary and sit there and take a bunch of practice drugs, or I didn't get anything that I was supposed to have. So my wife and the dispensary that we were licensed under to produce our products actually wrote a program for the state on how to administer the cannabis to myself and other patients, because I went to prison as a patient, as a card holding patient. So, it wasn't like I just was out there slinging dope on the streets. I was a patient that was given the right to grow, and they just kicked my doors in for it. So going in there as a patient, we felt that we had a huge argument with the state to administer the very medicine that they state is legal, and it got shot down from the inside out. But like you said, I think there's a huge place for that in prison, especially CBD. And I had heard of one state that was doing that. I didn't know there was 3. Thanks for the info. It's great to hear.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's time to introduce a lot of innovative stuff concerning the cannabis industry. Like I said, if we can get it sold and it would be profitable, I believe it would definitely be profitable. And we would use the funds to help these guys and girls coming home.
Yeah.
Well, Zonka Miles,
it's tough, when people get out. Like you guys both know, I have a very close family member that just got out after doing 19 years. And, having a hard time finding employment, being able to even fill out an application. And it was another drug offense. It's tough. you know, especially for people that are not as strong-willed that are coming out that have been broken.
Right.
And so, you know, organizations like both of you guys, it's really helpful.
Well, this is the worst time to come out of prison right now with no type of assistance in place. Where are you going to do? Where are you going to go? Where are you going to get a job? They've been releasing. There's some talking to a friend of mine in Manhattan. They've been releasing prisoners in New York, and it's not good. It's not good. Some of them, you just can't tell a guy open up the door and say goodbye. Nothing in place, and it's not good. I've been hearing some stories about guys that are coming out and not doing the right thing.
Well, and that's what Zonka Miles is about. That's what our nonprofit's about. We're trying to help that reentry, that transition, that everything. So I take computers from the local school districts. These guys upgrade their computers every year, every 2 years. They get new software, new hardware. We take those computers, we download Windows 10 on it, and we donate them to those inmates that are coming home. That way, then we show them how to run them. We show them how to fill out an application. We show them how to apply for a job, fill out a bank account. You know, I agree with you, George. I wasn't in there 32 years, but the 6 years I did do, I saw so many people that weren't ready to go home. And it wasn't their fault. It's not because of them. It's because all the time they've done in there and been programmed. They're institutionalized now. And how do you transition to a world that's changed so much when you haven't seen it? I mean, I can only imagine how tough it was for you when you went in. I mean, what cell phones were brand new, you know? Now look at shit. You can go on the internet on your watch and talk to people in another country. Like, I can imagine that transition.
Listen. It's just that, you know, I thank God I survived. You know, there were certain things that I had to do, unbelievable things, like graduate over 8,000 inmate students in lifestyle change classes that I created. Had the permission to create, and one of my classes was called Fathers Behind Bars. I'm proud of that because it's still going on in more than one institution, where you take the estranged father and you try to unite them back with the children, because usually the mother has moved on, etc. But I think the start of the drug war, and then when they really got in to start locking everybody up, it statistically left over 500,000 children without a parent, or even in some cases both parent. And those kids grew up and just was a pattern. There were so many kids in foster care, and you know, they grew up and went back into the system, got back, committed crime. So, you know, 500,000 were affected. So, and that's way back. That's way back in the 80s. So, and today we still incarcerate. We still incarcerate more than any country. And I've been in all the worst places, as Tommy knows. I don't know if you know, the worst prisons. I've been in all the worst places. So, what's dangerous is when the White House comes out and says, "Okay, we're going to start releasing these nonviolent first offenders," and you shouldn't even come out publicly. If you're going to do it, just do it, because you just made a prison go off. You just maybe made 10 prisons go off, because in a penitentiary, they, you know, shot caller, the guy running, he said, "See, you're not getting anything. You're not going to get anything relief. That's why the gang is your life. The gang's more important." So that's what happens. I mean, Chris, if you've been some places like I have, you can't say that, because you can't say, "Okay, you guys on the left, you're going to get a break. You guys on the right, you get nothing." And it causes a lot of problems. And it puts staff in harm's way. You know, just because you're a prison guard or prison staff, that doesn't mean you're a bad person.
You know, especially in a place where people riot over a football score or over drinking too much hooch. You know what I mean? Like, absolutely. I agree.
You know, and look at that as a comparison of what's happening in society right now. We have certain states where businesses are completely locked down, so nobody's allowed to go to work. We have other states where they're going to open up, you know, the market. And then we have certain people that are going to get relief from the government in the form of, you know, loans and help. And then you have other people that are not going to get relief. So, you know, we do have the haves and the have-nots. It's a very different scenario than what's happening behind bars. But if you look at the irony and, you know, the comparison of what's happening right now with this national lockdown, you know, we're setting up for trouble if, you know, these, because they're not helping out businesses that are in the gambling. They're not helping out nightclubs that have or strip clubs. They're not helping cannabis companies. They're declining hemp companies, you know. So there are some, you know, not good people out there that could utilize this as a way to rebel or do. Luckily, we're not seeing that.
Yesterday, I read a stat that said of the 400 and some odd $billion that have been administered, 380 went to public companies.
Wow.
Yeah,
I mean, it sounds like the not good people are on the other side.
Yeah,
only 5% of that, the first stimulus package, only 5% trickled down to small businesses. 95%, I don't know where it went, but only 5% went to small businesses.
Well, I'm reading companies like Harvard, schools like Harvard, and companies like Shake Shack. They're giving the money back now because they got caught up.
that is
$10 million.
That is true. And then some other ones, they're going to be taking that money when it really should be used by the people that are struggling the most, the ma and the pa's, the small businesses with less than 10 employees.
I can't figure the numbers out. There's 331 million Americans in this country. Statistically, Bloomberg, running for president, spent 500 and something million. So he could have gave each one of us $1 million. Let's go to the figure now. Was it $2 trillion? I mean, come on. Yeah. They could $2 trillion. They could afford to give every one of us 10 million and still had plenty left. So I don't know how. Where did the money go again?
Well, I was always taught in economics. I was taught in economics in business class that as you print more money, it loses its value.
Yeah.
So we just keep printing more money. We're not helping our economy.
I mean, it doesn't. The numbers don't make sense. Numbers don't make sense. So
you know what's even worse about that is I run a podcast called Haters Make Me Famous, and our last topic was about private prison and the scam that it is, and I had a couple of people on that we talked about it. And then you look at how prisons are still profitable, even through times like this. You can go right on CCA website or Geo Group website, and it'll tell you the value of the stock right now. It's up 12%. During a pandemic, we're still making profit off locking people in a cage, and not a lawsuit one's been filed yet. I mean, these are crimes against humanity. This is crazy.
Problem is, Tom and Chris, right now, Americans, anything to do with prison is falling on deaf ears. I mean, there's some of us out there, but right now, you got people in poor neighborhoods up, and I know for a fact, because I interact, I try to do things that matter of fact, one of my programs, I use refrigerators to these group homes with these people that are just a step above being homeless. And so one of the guy, he worked, since I've been home, took 3 homeless off the street. Wish I could do more, because when you do get involved with an individual, it's not a 1, 2, 3 thing. You got to work with him and get his life right, get him a job and this and that. But he was telling me, I said, how's everything with that going up there with that group home? I bought the refrigerator. He just looked at me, he said, George, when we open that refrigerator, nothing comes out but cold air.
Oh.
So they got no food.
Yep.
And these food banks, as far as my area, you have to drive to them, and they're pretty nice suburb areas, the food banks. But the poor neighborhoods, they don't have cars. They have cut back on the buses, city transportation. So how's the poor going? And now I understand there's only one food bank up in North Philly for the poor. So I don't know.
You know, we took our cafe, and because we had to close the doors in the Youngtown location, we've offered our cafe and kitchen and walk-ins up to farmers, Cisco, Shamrock, those companies that are losing money because they can't sell their produce to the restaurants that are closed. And we've offered to do food boxes, set up a remote place for the food banks. So maybe that could help out in your location up there. I don't know if that's something that's possible.
Yeah. I'll call my people in North Philly right away. Thank you.
Yeah, we noticed that my hometown was in a little nicer area up in Prescott, and they were rocking. But Phoenix, we're fighting because we got 6 million people here, and there's just not enough help, like you're saying, in those poorer areas. In my 19th and Bell store, I'm pretty smack dab right in the middle of the ghetto over there, where it's homeless and heroin addicts sleeping on my front door every morning. So.
Right.
I've noticed that using that location to help like that, it not only helped the homeless in our area, but it was helping these bigger companies who can't get food out fast enough.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely unbalanced all across the nation. Like I said, it's bad situation up here. Any metropolitan city in the Northeast, very bad. I don't think New York will ever be the same again. I mean, some of those apartments in New York could run anywhere from 3 to 30 million. So why would you live there? I mean, your worst enemy with this situation is the elevator, and you ain't living in New York without getting on an elevator.
Right.
So I think with the subway system and the elevator, I think New York, a lot of people are going to be leaving New York, my opinion.
That brings me to, Chris, before we got on, you were talking about what's happening in Arizona, how everybody's out, they're hiking, they're biking, the heat's coming up, and I guess the governor's announced May 1st is going to be back to normal. What's going on out in Arizona?
I got to tell you, we've had a big debate back and forth about it. Everyone's a self-proclaimed scientist and doctor when this stuff comes around. Arizona's been, I can tell you, we've been shut down. There are businesses that are closed, restaurant owner friends of mine that probably won't reopen after this because of how bad it's been. But I can tell you, I drive by the golf course every single day going into my shop, and it's packed. The mountain, we've got Pinnacle Peak right around the corner. It's probably one of the largest hiking mountains here in my area. And the parking lot's overflowing. Like, you would never guess in a million years that there was a shutdown other than going on I-17 to work in the morning and it's not bumper to bumper for an hour. That's really the only difference. So Ducey came out and said they were going to reopen May 1st, and there's some kickback back and forth. I think the biggest thing is we're looking at 100-degree weather by Monday, and it's been 85 plus for over a month here now. So I think that's part of what has to do with it. You can tell that our death rate and the illness rate is a little bit lower than other states. But, I'm no doctor or scientist. I'm a Crohn's guy, and I don't want to die and get sick from something else. So I've been home for 4 weeks, and I go to my shop and put out online orders or make masks and donate them and make sanitizer, and then I run back home. I'm just trying to make sure I don't spread anything or add to this problem. That's really our job.
Hey, George, what about in Philly?
Excuse me?
What are we seeing in Philly? What's the word out there? Is everything shut down?
No, well, every day it's something different. First it was supposed to be May 1st, then it moved to May 8th, then it moved to May 15th, then it moved back to May 8th, now it moved back to May 1st. I mean, every day we're hearing something. I mean, it's got to the point where, that's why people are frustrated. They just, it's difficult. I had a woman last week coming down the street, and she's on our step. You can't come in the store. We have dividers right there, form a little line like in the airport. We serve one at a time, and she's on the step and she's buying, and she's pointing across the street and she's cursing at this guy. And I'm coming up the street and I'm concerned. I feel, well, excuse me, is he bothering you? She said, no, that's my husband. I can't stand him. I need some CBD. I need some CBD smoke. She said, I can't take them no more. I felt so sorry for the guy. He was standing across the street and he looked like a sad sack.
Hey, George, I wanted to let you know, I linked up with a lady, Sonia Gomez. She's with the Leaf Academy. You can look her up on Facebook or on my page. She's donated 10 classes to our nonprofit, and their value is about $6,000, and they're based on making a product of your own and going to market with it. And I believe it's like a 6 or 8 week online class. So people coming home from prison can get one of our computers, get online, take this online course, learn how to develop a program and a product, and then bring it to market. I'd be more than honored to donate half of those classes to your program, to your nonprofit, so you have 5 of them yourself to give out to people in your area that are going to need help. And we'll even ship the computers out there to you, no charge, to make sure they've got some way to get online and take this class.
Wow. Well, Sean, let me think about it.
Yeah.
I'm right now in the middle of so many things. I worked the few short years I'm home, Chris. I worked hard. Tommy will tell you that, because I came out with the shirt on my back, and I worked hard. And this year, 2020, everything was developing. I started 4 other companies plus my store.
Yeah.
And we have hemp coffee. We have biotech, a hand soap. We have BioNeat, the hand soap. We have a candy company that we developed in California, THC and CBD, and then we have.
We sound like long lost brothers.
Yeah, then we have weed luggage. So I don't know what what's really I don't know what until I get through this. I don't know what's up with me.
So you know
But
what?
listen,
Tell me about your brand.
Excuse
So,
me?
George, tell us about your brand. So both of you guys have come out and built brands. You both are brands right now. So George, I know you have your own line of products and you have your own brand.
We have, like I said, we have the hemp coffee. We have G. Martorano. We have our potentials. We have our topical. Okay, we have our bath bombs under the G. Martorano. Then we have some Grow Father. It's our own strain. The Godfather. I'm the Grow Father. We have our own strain. We sell it. Does very well.
Mugshot? Do you have Mugshot?
Yeah, Mugshot. Yeah, we're going to get involved. While we're branding a little too quickly, so I had to slow up, and then we're going to do Mugshot, Chris. It's taking my prison Mugshot and put it on CBD facial products for guys. So it's awful lot.
That's mine.
What city are you in down there?
I'm in Phoenix.
Oh yeah, I'll come and see you. I'll come down there and we'll spend some time together. That's about the best thing.
Yeah, that'd be great. We'd love to have you. I'll even get you on the show and we'll talk a little bit and just sit down and chat.
Yeah.
If you guys don't know, they call George Handsome Jack. And that's
Professor Handsome Jack. That evolved some years back in one of my classrooms with one of my students, and it just stuck. So that's my email. My email's, ladies and gentlemen out there, my email's 32handsomejack@gmail.com. Handsome with a D. So
I can tell you, Handsome's never been promoted with anything over here. Yeah, I can't. But I can tell you, we've got quite a bit going on too. My whole story started off with my edible line. We got into cannabis, producing a product in 2010, and I'd always been in the weed game for a long time. But one day we were sitting around the table smoking a joint, and I had a sweet tart packet, one of the Zonka sweet tart or the Willy Wonka sweet tart packets. And we tore it open, and when the label hit the table, the W turned into a Z and was laying on the package. And I just went, oh my God, that's my next brand right there. And literally that day we were at Michael's buying molds and I was making suckers. And I'm a chef by trade. I've opened up 9 restaurants. I've got 26 years in kitchens.
Oh, wow.
That's why the cookbook was so easy and second nature. So from there, after the raid, we had to stay in business. I had to pay rent, and I fought my case for 4 years and couldn't go back to the chef industry. I couldn't get a job with 15 felonies on my neck. So I started the hemp company, Hempful Farms, and we trick bagged into that deal. I ran my business online, and we made all our products from home. But then I had an investor call from out of state and say, "Hey, look, we love your work. We love your drive. And they had no idea I was looking at life in prison. So I rented a kitchen off Craigslist. I told them I had a catering gig for the weekend and I just needed the location. I set it up as a factory, as like a lab. The investors flew in from out of state, and I'm just pitching shit out of my mouth like, yeah, this is great. We're gonna do cafe. I'm gonna do hemp infused juices and smoothies. And honestly, I'd never even wrote it on paper. And the guys fell in love, and they invested in the company. And within a year, we bought our percents back. And by the time I got sentenced, the only iron I really had in the fire at that time was my hemp company. And my son had gone on to the marijuana show on Amazon, and he pitched our pet products to a bunch of dispensary owners while I'm in prison. They changed the whole topic of the show to being in prison for pot, and it brought a lot of light onto the topic. Russell Simmons and then activists got involved, and they really just made a big deal out of all the guys like you in prison for so long. I felt like I got a lot of good light on the topic, so we just ran with it and started doing all our nonprofit work, just getting people linked together. I think our big deal right now is just bridging gaps. We know people in all different areas that don't necessarily know each other, and doing stuff like this, Tom, like what you're doing. I love connecting. I've been waiting to talk with you, George, for a while. So Tom had told me how much we had in common, and now I really see it.
I don't want to talk shop on the phone, but I want to definitely put you with one of my managers. We'll probably buy some CBD off you.
Well, and I wanted to mention that to you. We are a manufacturing company, and we also farm. So I get my hemp from farms that I'm part of. I've actually gone out and planted the hemp. I've helped process the hemp. We white label too. So if there's something that you want that you're not R&Ding or that you're not in the position to do, let me know. I've got a 5,000 square foot kitchen down here, and we'll rock out whatever you want.
Yeah,
definitely.
I'm going to speak to you about.
Cool.
And we'll go into all that, definitely.
And what's great is that we could connect like this and, link arms and, help each other, obviously. And we've been talking about that for a while. My wife's Chill Coffee place here, and I had mentioned to you just before the pandemic, Chris and George, we want to carry both of your products here in Florida as well, because if we can help each other and help the other brands, again, these Wall Street guys and these people that are jumping in right now, they have no idea. They're trying to, bring people like us on their teams, and they really don't have, the ability to, build a brand the way that, you guys have been able to, but they have a lot of money and, they're wasting it. And there's, brands like ours that are authentic, and that really connect with the people and that are built with love and that are built, with perseverance and dedication. And, those are the brands that are going to be around 10 years from now. They're the ones right now that are, that are building within their small communities. And if we can we got a triangle here. We got Tampa, Florida, we got Philadelphia, and we got Arizona. We could connect the country, that way. I think, that's great.
Like I said, I'm not getting any younger, of course. I'm getting older, but I'm hoping to have 500-600 people working for me with all these endeavors I'm doing. It's about creating jobs, especially for the young people. I mean, I got 6 people working for me here, all young people. Everyone owns a student loan. And the one doctor I work with, a great person called Dr. Jen, she owes $500,000. I mean, how did they? I mean, it's so difficult. And when you're an employer of these people that owe, as Chris knows, and you're going to know, Tom, you have to take part of their salary by law and pay it towards their student loan. So the government even gets you into that position where you have to do that, which I don't like to do.
Absolutely not. So,
just right now, we just got to get through something that I don't think, Tom has been in my neighborhood. It's a great neighborhood full of all great restaurants. One of the one is owned by a dear friend of mine, a saloon. It's been there 53 years. It's always been in the top 5 in the city. And I'm with him every night, just me and him in a closed restaurant talking. He doesn't know what to expect. He doesn't know does he take tables out, have more spacing? Does he take bar stools out, have more spacing? I say, what do you do? What do you do?
Right.
What
I think
do
it's
you
all
do?
about adapting. I think it's all about change. I'm watching it around me, and I got to say, there's some really innovative business owners. I talked with a gentleman up north in Prescott that owns a restaurant. He's gotten the Salvation Army involved. He's gotten the Unified School District involved. He's gotten all these people that you normally, I mean, I wouldn't have necessarily thought to go to the school district for help, but the school district's taken all their food and donated their food so he could then turn it into a box lunch. I was blown away at his tenacity and fortitude to turn it around in a pandemic. I've got people on the other end of the spectrum that have owned their business 35 years, and they might not reopen. They've told me that it's just been too bad for them, and they haven't found that niche or that way around this. So, you know, I hate to say it, but I feel like sometimes it's really about personal fortitude and resolve. Like, how much can a person take? Sometimes they can't take much. It's sad to say that, but I mean, as a business owner, you got to have some thick skin.
It's a lot of hard work, you know.
Absolutely.
The restaurant industry is a lot of hard work. So you get someone, an older person, whether he or she said, you know what, geez,
I'm done.
it's going to be twice as hard. So they might say, you know, it's just not working. Let me have a life. You know,
Yes.
that's the way people are thinking right now. And like Tom knows, my dear friend who owns the saloon, he said that. He said, is at my age, is it worth going up against this right now, doing all this?
Right.
So people are actually having a real look at their own personal lives in reference to getting out there and starting up again in their business.
It's true, you know, and we have that generation that they've done it for 35, 40 years, and they're seeing this as a sign for them to move on. And then we have other people that have never been under adversity that, you know, just like in the movie The Devil's Advocate, you know, pressure is a weird thing. You know, people either fold under it or they persevere, you know, and we're going to see a lot of people that have never been under adversity before that, you know, are fine with sitting in their homes until they're told that they could go back out there. But once they're back out there, they're not going to be sure what to do, unfortunately. So individuals like the two of you gentlemen, you know, really, you know, that's why I wanted to bring you guys on, you know, to inspire hope to those people that may be sitting home, to realize that, you know, this isn't the first time that anybody's been under adversity or, you know, conditions that look dismal with no hope. But there's always hope, and you have to find it. And George, you know, you've taught me that, you know, that hope is one of the things that, you know, keep people going through dark times. We're in dark times right now. There is hope and there is change.
Well,
and we got to adapt. We're getting down to the last 10 minutes. George, do you have anything that you want to say? I want, you know, last minute to everybody that's watching. I'm going to save this on YouTube and share it on there as well. You know, any last inspiration or anything you want to talk about?
Yeah, I want to definitely stress patience right now, and your whole aspect of your life, with your home life, your business life, all your types of relationships. Patience right now shows that you're a good leader, because it's very easy to get frustrated, ladies and gentlemen. It's very easy to snap at your loved ones or whatever. So patience. I think patience is the most important thing in our lives right now. I want to share that definitely with everyone.
Wow. Chris?
Yeah, you know, I think the same thing. I've always been a half full kind of guy, no matter what my circumstance was. And I like to share that with people. You know, things could always be worse. It could always be a lot worse than it is. Really, it's love the neighbor, man. Take care of somebody next to you. If you haven't checked on somebody that you've thought about, then do it. Now's the perfect time. There's no excuses to reach out and to not help somebody. I mean, there's so many people that need help right now. I think it's mandatory. For me, it's one of those things where we're all looking back inside to each other. You know, now that we can self-reflect with all this time that we get to sit here and stare at the mirror at each other, do it. Take that time to take some notes and self-reflect and think about how you can do things a little bit better this time around. I think it's kind of a do-over for some of us.
Well,
Yeah, those are two great reminders to me because I'm battled with patience. I'm 50, but I still feel young. And when I was younger, I would run out without waiting or thinking things out. And I start having that battle right now, and really important patience. And George, you've told me that for years now. Take the time during your downtime to strengthen yourself. And I see that it's amazing advice, and love your neighbors, whether their opinions are the same as yours or they differ completely. We all have different perspectives and we're looking at it differently, but I think we all want the same thing. We all, want to survive this, and we want to come out better. And, we want to be able to live fruitful lives where we're not just worried about making more money and getting more things. And this is one of the things that I think I've realized is I could live without a lot. There's a lot of things that I thought before that I needed that I'm living without right now. And, I can live without those things. But some of the things that I do want is human interaction. And we've adapted and we have human interaction digitally right now. And it will come back, human interaction. It may not be the same, but patience, love, and appreciating what you have and realizing what you don't need. I think those are the three really good, strong things to come out of this from this week.
Well, I hope that it gives people a chance to realize what we've done to our planet. Because with the last 4 to 6 weeks that we've been allowed to kind of take a break, the planet started to heal itself a little bit. And I hope some of the things that we've done kind of come back around. I hope maybe a couple weeks out of the year, we all don't drive our car or stay at home. And because we've gotten to see what the planet's gotten to do with that time. So like I said, I try to see it half full, not half empty. And the planet's actually recovering in some places.
It is. I saw all those elks in Colorado and Golden Colorado. Seals are coming out. The animal life. I got a comment from our friend John over here. Live life like it's your last day. Just don't be reckless doing it.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I think that's a great way to end the show. Again, thank you guys for taking time early this morning. I'm always here. My phone's always open. Hopefully, once this is all over, the three of us can get together, whether it's in Arizona, Philadelphia, or come down here to Florida. Both of you are always welcome, over here, obviously. And, let's keep inspiring others and keep moving forward. Movement is life.
Well, that's just, that's why these shows are important. Like just from the show, me and Chris will hook up and all positive stuff are going to come at. And incidentally, Joe, Tom, when you get a chance, text me Chris's number.
I will.
All right.
I will. I'm glad you guys met. When I met Chris a few months back, I was like, oh my God. And I told him, I said, you've got to meet George.
You did too.
Talking to Chris, and I saw his book, and I know, George, we talked about the tomatoes on Sunday behind bars for the sauce, to make gravy. And as soon as Chris started, I got goosebumps.
Ladies and gentlemen, I ate out of the same bowl for 15 years. I used to make a hearty soup. I used to eat once a day. And I carved my initials at the bottom of it because, Chris, when you have shakedowns, the bowl was came from somewhere. It didn't come from anywhere in the prison. Anyway, I really liked that bowl, and I saved it for a few shakedowns. So the day I left, I gave a bowl to a buddy of mine. I says, you keep eating. When you get to the bottom of that bowl and you see my initials, that's hope. That's strength.
Yeah, that's right.
I said, you're good. Just keep eating till you see my initials. You're going to make it out of here.
That sounds like a story and a recipe for the cookbook.
All right, guys.
Absolutely.
Nice to meet you, George.
My pleasure. Tom,
thank you. If you guys stay on, I'll have you on in the back.